Aloha and welcome to Trust and Verify, the show where the host tells you never, ever, ever believe anything I say. Verify it, and that is why we have a co-host, Boogie Bumper, my brother, my friend. What is going on down there in Australia?
not much, you jive turkey. Thanks for that intro. Love it. How have you been, James? Very busy. I've been busy myself. I spent the weekend eating copious amounts of American food. You'd be very proud of me, James. I had an inauthentic Philly cheesesteak. I had some nacho fries. Yes, some brisket, some sliced brisket, all on the Thanksgiving Day weekend. I thought, why not? Why not? I'll have an Australian version of American favourites done improperly in order to celebrate a holiday I have no knowledge or understanding of. It was perfect. It was the way it should have been. Thanks for joining us, guys. Thanks for joining us in the chat. We're going to have fun tonight. We've got plenty of stuff to go through. Believe it or not, do not adjust your monitors. You are not dreaming. This is real. This program is real. You are literally watching two people in real life. This is not an imaginary program. James is not an imaginary host. I am not an imaginary co-host. But all of this is actually taking place right now. I know you don't know. I know you don't know. I know you can't be sure. But we really are sitting here. You're sitting here, aren't you, James? Just?
I am here. I promise. I'm here. I am not Max Headroom. So, listen, I wanted to say, first off, let's start this show in the right way and apologize to all of you that are out there watching us right now in all of the Twitter lands, all of the YouTube lands, the Stream.me's, and the Periscope lands. I apologize that I have been incommunicado virtually for an entire day, which is almost unheard of for me. But I was extremely busy today. I've been extremely busy trying to help get out production, producing other people's shows, making sure things work. And believe me, technology did not want to work today. But I bet you we have a story somewhere we're going to talk about today about that, about how the technology people have been setting us up for failure. They're setting this up because they need us to not pay attention to what the left hand is doing. Half of the stories we're probably going to talk about right now is all about not paying attention to what the left hand is doing. So I apologize. I love you guys. You're awesome. I will, after this show, try to stay awake long enough to try to answer all the messages I got. I see them pop up on my phone. I mean, I got text messages I missed. I got Twitters I missed. I got telegrams I missed. I'm sorry. I was just super, super busy today.
That's all right. You are right. The diversion, James, the great diversion, the imaginary caravan. Apparently it rolled up today on the imaginary border, and imaginary guards shot imaginary tear gas at the imaginary women and children. They actually are imaginary, the women and children. Everything else is real. But let's kick it off with this report that I saw on PBS, James. Get this, 2 days ago. 2 days ago, this was uploaded to YouTube. Have a quick listen to this, and then we'll get into the quote-unquote real news.
And now to the analysis of Brooks and Marcus. That's New York Times columnist David Brooks and Washington Post deputy editorial page editor Ruth Marcus.
Oh, we got the king hitters in, the big hitters.
For coming in, joining us. The president, judging by social media, has been spending his Thanksgiving holiday worrying a lot about the border, threatening to shut the border down, close it altogether. Railing against the migrants moving their way north. David, what's going on? Is this just base maintenance here, or what's going on?
I'm going with bluster. It looks a little like
bluster.
I like bluster.
Bluster.
Still my bluster.
Listen to him laugh about it.
It looks like Teddy Roosevelt, tweeting up San Juan Hill.
I'm going with bluster. I was going with bluster, and the three of us. Ladies and gentlemen, if you did not yet understand about the corporate media bubble, it is not imaginary. It is real.
But you have to remember the troops that are down there, the actual military troops, according to Secretary Mattis, will not be carrying weapons. They'll be in the background somewhere. They're in a supportive role, which is a null and void role, basically.
Right.
So I'm pretty sure the president, I can understand why he's upset. There's been more illegal immigration under his term than under President Obama.
Yeah, I wonder
it's
why.
hard to believe this administration wants, after the separation of the families, wants more bad pictures coming out of the border. So reasonably confident this is mostly bluster and they'll find some muddling solution.
I'm reasonably confident this is mostly bluster, James, and they'll find some muddling solution. Well, Mr. Brooks, unfortunately, the next day, here we are. This is reported in Australia. Believe it or not, even down here in little old Australia, they were more accurate than you. U.S. agents shoot tear gas at migrants attempting to breach Mexican border. They misspelled bluster in this headline, I think you'll find. It's very unfortunate from the ABC. What the hell are my taxpayers, my tax dollars paying for, James? They couldn't even get bluster right. Let's have a little look. Oh, look at this bluster. Look at this imaginary caravan here. There goes rocks. There go the throwing rocks. Quick, turn the camera around. They're throwing rocks. Did you see the guy with the megaphone there? Why would you need a megaphone? Why would you need a megaphone at an asylum rally, James? Why would that be with stickers on it like Antifa? It seems like an odd thing to have at the border, doesn't it? The US closed its busiest border crossing with Mexico after Mexican police broke up a protest of migrants in Tijuana. Just more protesters. Now we've got to import protesters as well. Antifa, they're taking your jobs, baby. Scattering demonstrators toward the border where US HRC, because they broke up the protest, the migrants were scattered towards the border.
They were forced. They were forced to come and try to run into the border.
Exactly. Go protest over there. Where US agents hurled tear gas canisters. Children were screaming and coughing in the mayhem, James, on Sunday. Honduran migrant Ana Zuniga, 23, she saw migrants open a small hole in concertina wire at a gap on the Mexican side of a levee, at which point US agents fired tear gas at them. We ran, but when you run, the gas asphyxiates you more. She told AP while cradling her 3-year-old daughter Valerie in her arms. That's quite some imagery there. Why are you taking your 3-year-old daughter through a hole in a border illegally whilst guards fire tear gas at you? Can anyone explain that to me? That doesn't sound like Mother of the Year material. Mexico's Milenio TV also showed images of several migrants at the border trying to jump over the fence. Meters away on the US side, James, shoppers streamed in and out of a shopping center. Those damn capitalists, they've got no heart. They've got no empathy. People in America were just doing their shopping. They didn't even care about the migrants. They didn't even care about the tear gas, those heartless capitalist pigs, James. U.S. Border Patrol helicopters flew overhead while U.S. agents held vigil on foot beyond the wire fence in California. During the protest earlier on Sunday, the several hundred Central American migrants who pushed past the blockade of Mexican police standing guard near the international border crossing appeared to easily pass through without using violence. Get this, James. Some of the migrants called on each other to remain peaceful. Bravo. Bravo. Some of the migrants said, hey, settle down. I like this line here, James. The migrants who are demonstrating to pressure the US. Now, here's what I'm talking about when we're discussing fake news. Again, it's not that everything that they say is wrong. It's not that everything that comes out of these sources is incorrect or a lie or a manipulation. There are facts woven in there. And in this very paragraph, we will use the information that they put in one paragraph to disprove the very paragraph that it's put in. I know it sounds like a lot. This is why you got to verify. The migrants who were demonstrating to pressure the US to hear their asylum claims carried hand-painted American and Honduran flags while chanting, "We are not criminals, we are international workers." I demand asylum. I am a worker. Well, no, that's not really how it works. We are an international workforce. We are coming to make money. I demand asylum. That's not really what asylum is, hombre. So they're using in their own paragraph, James. They were trying to draw attention to their asylum claims. Oh, good. Well, I guess we can throw them out because they said we're international workers, therefore not asylum seekers. Done. Beautiful. Easy. Turn them all back. Simple as that. No need to clog up the courts. No need to fill the Ninth Circuit up. That's done. They've already done it. Thank you very much. I really, you know what? We should let them in because they respect the legal system in America far more than a lot of Americans do, by the sounds of it. At least they're honest. Well done. James, you've been talking to the guy from Border Narcotics. Did he make any mention that this thing was getting a lot closer in the last couple of days, even though PBS, CNN, MSNBC all said the exact opposite?
Yes, actually, on the Ladies of Liberty show last night, he told everybody that everything you're hearing in the mainstream media is a lie. It's literally that they are catching people. They are being detained and not released. There is no catch and release. They're catching them, putting them in the basically the tent city. That's it. They're done. Their concertina wire is being strung as rapidly as can be. The whole border is currently secure. Every time they've had an issue, they're catching them as much as is humanly possible at this point. Troops, as predicted and as told on this program and several others that I'm on, the troops are continuing to grow at the border. We have the generals coming down, making sure of what's going on. The generals are in charge. They've got it. So literally, everything you're hearing in the mainstream media is some version of a twist of the truth. Like you just pointed out, they've got truth nuggets and then they're trying to twist and wrap them in, bullshit language. This is literally not happening in the way that they say it. And even in that story, they're trying to make it seem like the Mexican police literally were breaking up just a protest. No, Mexico sealed the border. Everybody needs to understand the actual truth and reality. Mexico sealed the border and the U.S. sealed the border. Mexico would not let U.S. citizens return to the United States, and the United States would not let Mexican citizens return. The border was sealed from both sides by both governments, and that's what was going on. So that whole story is a complete twist on what's going on. Like, think about what a big deal this is, that Mexico sealed the border from their side. They put barricades up on the roads. They put barricades to protect the gates. They filled it with police and federales. Literally, that's a big deal. Like, these people need to understand what's going on.
Yeah, and look at the story. You remember we did a lot of talking about the reporting during the Tet Offensive in the Vietnam War, and people will say, well, that's not really relevant. I understand, this isn't Vietnam War, what we're talking about here, but the same method and the same methodology and the same mode of interaction between the corporate media and you, the population, remains the same. They have not changed their techniques and their strategies in how to engage you. So if I just throw this headline up again one more time, US agents shoot tear gas at migrants attempting to breach Mexican border. The story is now the tear gas, right? The story is not the attempted illegal border crossings. The story is not the quote-unquote invasion. The story is not the breach of the border itself. Because she said, some people ripped a hole, in the border. So the border was breached, but they shot tear gas at migrants attempting to breach the Mexican border. Straight away there, that becomes the story. You evil pigs, you evil swine. In times like this, James, when, morals are questioned, when a good Christian country like the United States is, the pressure is being put on them for their very unchristian way of dealing with illegal immigrants. Who I turn to? Some people turn to faith. Some people turn to the book. Some people turn to people like James R. and other pundits on these little apps that we like to dance around on. I turn to the celebrities. I go to see what the celebrities have to say. Alyssa Milano, you tear-gassed women and children, arsewipe, and on Thanksgiving weekend, you piece of shit, asshole, motherfucking evil creature person. There you go. The sensible, non-rambling addition to the argument from one Alyssa Milano. Isn't she lovely? Do you think we need to hear more from the celebrities in times like this, James? Do you think that could only help the cause?
It could only help us. Yeah, definitely help us out over here on the right. Listen, we've been talking about this a little bit, and we haven't really talked about a lot of it online, but this seems like a good time to bring it up when we're talking about, if you go back to the first story there that was on video where the guys were talking about how it's bluster and how the comment that really stuck with me for a moment was the fact that he said, I don't think that Donald Trump and the Trump administration are going to want those bad pictures Like, now put it in the context of everything we've been talking about. We told you they're going to turn this into Vietnam. We told you that they're going to lie and twist facts. And now you have a guy that makes a statement they're not going to want any more bad pictures. It's almost like he's threatening, right, the president to say, if you do your job and seal the border and protect it, we're going to find every bad picture we can and make sure they go viral. Make sure that they're all over the place. And so then we're going to extrapolate from there now. Now we move forward to this last, right, with Alyssa Milano, right? You tear gassed women and children. So we're going to see a bunch of pictures of a bunch of crying women and children, which may or may not have even occurred. Because if we didn't see it live on video, right, who says it actually happened? But we're going to have photojournalists that are going to set things up. And then when they get caught doing it, they're going to say, oh, well, we were just recreating it because the things were so chaotic when it was actually really happening. We couldn't get the good picture. So now we had to take and stage the picture because we had to prove it. So be prepared. They're turning this into Vietnam. We know we're going to stand by the president. We know that we are going to, we told them, we already know, all the press has been told. Everybody down there has lethal weapons. So be glad that they were able to stop the migrants this time with tear gas. Be glad that those migrants were able to turn around and run. And I love how they use the term asphyxiate faster. No, do you understand what the term asphyxiate means? Like, that's done. That's it. That ends in a final death, asphyxiate. Okay? So they're even using hyperbole in the language as they talk about having a hard time breathing because of tear gas. Do people like suddenly forget that every single member of our police force and our military have to literally go in a room with tear gas, take off all protective gear, stay in there for some cases up to 20 minutes before they're allowed to walk out of the door? So don't tell me about how these innocent people are being asphyxiated.
Sure. And, you know, you saw in that video that we showed being presented on the ABC, the Australian Taxpayer-Funded Broadcasting Corporation, James, as soon as the rock started flying, the camera turned around. Oh, no, don't show that. Unfortunately for them, when they turned the camera around, we got to see the guy holding the megaphone with all of the left-wing activist stickers all over it. So they just can't win. And if you know what you're looking for, you'll see it. But of course, they're banking on you not knowing what you're looking for and instead being told what to look for. And, you know, I think it's a problem. And, you know, I don't think social media, like, you know, yes, social media has a good side and a bad side, right? Everything has a good side and a bad side, James. And I think there is, you know, I was flicking through, I'll open the kimono a little bit. I was flicking through Periscope the other day when I was preparing for my show on Thursday night. And, you know, I'm not going to name anybody, but, you know, a lot of, would you say, new conservative, you know, kind of social media celebrity types talking about various issues. And I'm going through them and they're all saying the exact same thing. It's like a script. Now, that might just mean that they all have similar opinions. Don't get me wrong. But, you know, from one channel to the next channel to the next channel to the next channel, it was, oh, yep, Laura Loomer. It was Donald Trump this, it was Democrats that, all in total agreement. And it was like a wall of this opinion. And I thought it was in that moment that I realized this is just like cable news. Because you can play the same game. Like this is what we laugh about when we look at cable news, right? When we tear shreds off them. The fact that you can go from one channel to the next, to the next, to the next, and they're basically all in the exact same place of reading the same half-hour script. Now, you know, are people best utilizing social media to their utmost ability? Like, I don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that I'm very, 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 very small fry. I'm a nobody. I'm a nothing. I understand that, but I still want to try and provide something a little bit different. You know, because I think, well, maybe people might get sick of hearing the same thing constantly over and over again from 5 or 6 or 7 different people. And I know, James, you're the exact same way. You know, you just have an inbuilt, you know, radar to say, well, I don't really want to do the exact same thing that everybody else is doing. You know, and that could be to our detriment. You know, we could be 10 times bigger by now if we did. Who's to say? But I think there is a danger there. Like, even though we do have this magnificent vehicle, for the time that we have it, there's no guarantee that we're going to be here forever. There's no guarantee that we don't all get wiped out in the next few days. Who's to say? But it seems to me like there's a certain element who, either by design or purely by accident, the creation of another echo chamber and a creation of another sameness. And it's like mainstream corporate media being transplanted to the people, for the people who hate mainstream corporate media. Does that make sense? I'm not trying to sound offensive or anything.
No, absolutely. Go ahead. Don't worry about it. I'm going to go even way further than you. Everybody get ready. James is about to bank it all, baby. I am rolling the dice and putting my entire career on the table once again. And I am going to tell you this. I'm even going to go to where people are going to point to me and say, oh, yeah, see, I told you that guy was a Q supporter, because I'm about to go all kinds of nuts on these fucks. Listen, right now, if you look at what's going on in our country, you understand that mirroring the MSM is every bit as detrimental for this movement as anything else. And I called it. I told you there are people in this movement that are leading you the wrong way. Those are the same idiots that are saying that Q is leading you in the wrong way. Here's where it comes down. Here's where the rubber meets the road. What does Donald Trump want you to do? Donald Trump wants you to think for your goddamn self. What does Q tell you to do? Think for your damn self. What does James R tell you to do? Don't trust me. Verify it. Think for your damn self. What are all these idiots out here that look like they're fucking carbon copies of each other, trying to all replace? They all want to be the next Sean Hannity. They're all sitting there like drones, reading a fucking script. Laura Loomer was deleted from Twitter today. She needs your support. She needs your help. This guy was deleted from Twitter today. Alex Jones was removed. What? Why don't you do something else besides read a script and figure out a way to be helpful? Figure out a way to help the people out here lead into the correct direction. And even when they tried that, what did they do? These fucks went over to frickin' Florida, joined a whole bunch of rhinos, and then after exactly what I said was going to happen, the outcome was going to be the same, exactly what I said on the first day, then they literally went on Twitter and put their hands up in the air and said, we stopped the steal. Are you out of your frickin' mind? You didn't stop a goddamn thing. You didn't even have a part in it. You were literally walking around in circles talking to people. That's all you did. The people that were stopping the steal were the people from inside that were making sure that there was coverage, that were talking to the politicians, talking to the people counting the votes, highlighting all of Brenda Snipes' crap. Some of you guys did that. But what about Arizona? What about Wisconsin? What about California? What about Nevada? What about Utah? Where the hell are you? You're over here patting yourself on the back claiming victory. You're over here patting yourself on the back that they stole 49 of the 50 states. 49 are stolen, and you think you can put up your hands in victory? Get out of my fucking way. You're in the way.
I knew it'd be a good show tonight because 5 minutes before we went on, James was cursing and spitting all over his laptops, going, this shit. I've had broadcast issues all day, tech issues, and I thought, wow, this is going to be fantastic. We're absolutely pumped. So, of course, it is my duty then at that point to just throw a little bit of fuel on the fire. I didn't know it would burn me down as well, but those are the breaks. Them's the breaks. That's how it goes sometimes. It was a nice little semi-successful podcasting career I had there for a while, James. Thanks for that. Thanks for destroying it. Appreciate it, mate. Just speaking on the Twitter results, but yeah, like I said, that it was. I realized, it might be just me. I don't know, but when everything's the same, I get uncomfortable. Like, I'm uncomfortable with the idea of consensus. I don't like consensus. If everybody in a room agrees, I feel like I have a duty to come up with some alternative point of view, just to make sure, like, hey, maybe we've all got it wrong here. Maybe we've overlooked something. Maybe we've missed something. You know what I mean? And that's part of the reason why I am so fastidious, James, about checking like all of these, corporate lefty news sources. Because I'm like, hey, maybe I've got something wrong. Maybe they're getting something right. Maybe I've missed something. Sometimes I'm surprised, not often. Sometimes I am. All right, so let me throw this up for you. Let's see if we can turn the conversation. Across South, Democrats who speak boldly risk alienating white rural voters, James. Pardon me. Jackson, Mississippi. When Mike Espy, the Democrat challenging Cindy Hyde-Smith of Mississippi, the Hyde of this woman, faced his opponent at a debate ahead of this Tuesday's runoff election, he had to make a choice. Confront Ms. Hyde-Smith over her comments about attending, quote, a public hanging, which evoked the state's racist history, or take a milder approach to avoid alienating the conservative-leaning white voters who will most likely decide the election. He chose the latter. The world knows what she said. The world knows that those comments were harmful and hurtful, Mr. Espy said, afterward sounding not entirely convinced. You see here, the New York Times is already blaming Mike Espy's reluctance to go full social justice warrior on the comments in this election for him losing the election. They're already setting it up. In a state where politics has long been cleaved by race, Mr. Espy was reckoning with a conundrum that Democrats face across the South, from Mississippi and Alabama, which have been hostile to the party for years, to states like Florida and Georgia that are more hospitable in cities but still challenging in many predominantly white areas. I thought it was wrong to point to voting demographics in terms of race, James. I thought it was wrong to play racial politics, wasn't it? Yep. Apparently not. Apparently not. When the Democrats are behind in rural areas, it's because everyone's white out there. That's why. That's the problem. Too many white people. We've got to mix in the coloured folk, James. We've got to get the coloured folk back on the
don't
farms.
forget.
Oh, hang on. Wait. Don't do that. Don't say that.
I was going to interrupt real quick and say, don't forget, these are the same people that said I'm white and said that Shamika Michelle is white and said that Karen, Denver Knight, is white. Like, they've all called us all white supremacists. One Asian and two black ladies are now white supremacists. That's amazing. Like, these people are nuts fuck.
They are insane. You're far too good at calculus to be white, my Asian friend. Even as they made gains in the 2018 elections in the suburbs that were once Republican pillars, Democrats are seeing their already weak standing in rural America erode even further, James. This is an interesting article from the New York Times. Now, as Democrats mount a last-minute and decidedly against-the-odds campaign to snatch a Senate seat in this most unlikely of states, they are facing the same problem that undermined some of their most heralded candidates earlier this month. The campaigns of Stacey Abrams in Georgia, Andrew Gillum in Florida, and Beto O'Rourke, the world's first Latino Irishman in Texas, may have electrified black and progressive white voters, just as Ms. Hyde-Smith's comments may energize Mississippians to support Mr. Espy. But they had an equal and opposite effect as well. In rural county after rural county, this trio of next-generation Democrats performed worse than Barack Obama did in 2012. Let that sink in for a minute. So the Democrat vote that we've decided now, and again, cheating or otherwise, the number that's being reported is, I think the Democrats, quote unquote, won the midterm election, in terms of pure vote counts by 8.8 million, right? But we've discussed this concept before, James. If you're recruiting voters in cities that are already blue, the difference doesn't make any difference how much extra votes you have. You already have the seat. And what we talked about on this very show, James, how are they going to be able to win over people in places like, West Virginia or, country rural areas, James, that aren't traditionally Democrat? They can't. The Democrat people move to the cities. New immigrants that predominantly vote for the Democrats move to the cities, James. The coastal elite meme that the Democrat Party one day might just become the party of the coastal elites. This is the New York Times admitting it. The progressive Democrat voters are actually less popular in counties where Barack Obama, right, in the rural counties. And hey, we're not supposed to be playing racial politics anymore, but it seems like for some reason, I don't understand, all of the country white folks don't want to vote for the Democrat. I don't understand. Why would that be? I know, it's because they're racist, isn't it? You're a white supremacist. You tell me, James.
Yeah, this is the craziest, is they're saying that in order to win in 2020, they need the white women vote. They're saying the white women are leaving the Republican Party because why? You're calling them all racists? That doesn't make any freaking sense. Like these people, they proved in their own words they stole this election, and we got the evidence. We're coming. Don't worry. It takes time. Justice is slow, but it's sure. And I gotta say real quick, I gotta bring this up. We can see the chat. Aloha. I love you guys. I saw Rick. I saw Dux Regionus is having a problem with the porn bots not paying him any attention. He's feeling jealous and lonely. And I saw one of the best comments I've seen so far of the night is, one of our friends, Zero Hour, is here. And Zero said, hey, I stopped the steal in my living room. So I think it's hilarious that the people out here, we get it. We understand that we're not stopping anything. We're supporting the president of the United States while he stops it for us because he has the power. He controls the judicial. He controls the DOJ. He controls the FBI. We're going to get this thing done. It's just going to take us some time. And you can see it already. They're arresting people. They're getting ready for prosecutions. You got people that are stepping down because they know they're caught, like Brenda Snipes. These things are going to happen, and it's going to happen over time. And it's beautiful in a way. If you really think about it, I talked about this before, and so I got to bring it up on my own show since I brought it up on everybody else's show, is that I told you guys in the beginning, right, that John Cox was the tip of the Republican spear. And what did that do? It panicked the shit out of them to a point where they stole elections they didn't need to steal. They're going to get caught cheating in elections they didn't need to cheat in because they're so scared of what you did in California. And when you look at the numbers, when you start digging into each race, when you start looking at county by counties, you start to understand that there's even a larger picture here. And that larger picture is, I think California is actually a conservative state. I think there's more of you than them. I really do, by looking at the numbers. And that they knew it. That's why they panicked. They panicked because they knew that their little coastal elite club that's been stealing elections for the last couple decades was about to be exposed. And that's why they cheated in elections they didn't need to cheat in, because you guys scared the shit out of them with your Trump support, with your MAGA hats, and with your cheering on. This voter fraud is going to go away.
Yeah, I don't know. See, I tend to, well, if we're going to go nuts on the chopping block, I'm a bit more of the pessimistic view, James, myself. And like I'll say, yeah, you know what? There may have been voter fraud. There may have been overt cheating, but you know what? 3 people being arrested in Texas for, sending in crooked mail-in ballots, that doesn't constitute like a sweeping change. 4 or 5 people getting prosecuted in California, a state of how many millions of people and how many counties, that doesn't constitute sweeping change. And every day that goes past, I get less and less, optimistic. I don't view things in terms of absolutes. For me, it's probabilities. And for someone who's, watched politics for the better part of 3 decades, I've learned to deal with disappointment at a very intrinsic level. And unless it happens, then for me, it doesn't happen. So right. When we get to the stage of, okay, there was fraud. Apparently the president was paying attention. Okay, fine. But I'm not going to hold my breath. And right. I'm optimistic that something might happen. But until that time, I've got to power on and act like it didn't, because there's other things that need our attention here. Like for one, James, the next president of the United States, Kamala Harris. Sorry.
Oh my God. I'm going to choke.
We'll just get a quick comment from our token celebrity for the night, Alyssa Milano. You tear gas women and children, asswipe, and on Thanksgiving weekend, you piece of shit, asshole, motherfucking evil creature person. Thank you, Alyssa. We'll go back to Alyssa Milano for comments. Expert comments later on in the day. Democrat Senate losses jeopardize national spotlight for possible 2020 hopeful. Another interesting article, this time from the Washington Post, James. Senate Democrats' midterm losses have created a dilemma for the party's leadership over a key committee seat held by Senator Kamala Harris, a prospective 2020 presidential contender who is at risk of having to forfeit the high-profile assignment and the national spotlight that comes with it. Harris, a former prosecutor and state attorney general, is the Senate Judiciary Committee's most junior member. The panel's investigations and Supreme Court confirmation battles have commanded regular media coverage since President Trump entered the Oval Office. It's the kind of exposure a new senator usually could only dream of. That's true. And with everything from an attorney general confirmation to oversight of special counsel Robert S. Mueller III, the Washington Post always puts the third in like he's a golfer. Russia probe next year on next year's agenda. Its limelight won't fade soon. Yet, unless Democrats strike a deal, either with the Senate's Republican majority, which could happen, or with fellow Democrats on the committee, numbers and seniority dictate that Harris will be out, James. And that has liberal groups scrambling to save her position. Enter the Antifa types. What do they have to say about it? Well, let me tell you. Not only would it be unconscionable to remove the only African-American woman from the committee, James, but Senator Harris is also the most skilled questioner on the entire panel. Yes. So you want the job of being the next head of ICE. Are you aware of the perception that's out there that ICE is literally the KKK? I'm not aware of that, but it's just a perception. I'm not accusing you of being KKK. Are you aware of the perception? Have you seen the perception? Said Brian Fallon, an executive director of Demand Justice, a liberal advocacy group challenging Trump's nominations for federal judgeships. Whatever options they need to consider, removing Harris should not be one of them, James. The backlash would be intense. Oh, no, not another social media backlash. Let's go to our celebrity on social media, Alyssa Milano. You tear gas women and children, asswipe. And on Thanksgiving weekend, you piece of shit, asshole, motherfucking evil creature person. Ah. There you go. Well, I don't think President Trump can survive another one of those tweets. Do you?
These people are batshit crazy. Like you already highlighted all the things to really highlight about Kamala Camel Toe Harris, but there was another great comment by our friend. I gotta say it. I'm sorry, he's dominating the chat tonight, but 0 Hour said he thinks that Donald Trump should put wild tigers on the border to protect the fence. I mean, if they don't like tear gas, what do you think they're going to do with live tigers? Kamala Harris will ask them some further questioning.
I know a couple of guys who can get some wild tigers, James. The Trump boys. We'll send them over to Africa. We'll load them up with their favorite rifle. Bring back some tigers. Bring back some rhinos. Bring back some elephants. We know the liberals love that.
Oh my God! We'll send him over there to trank them all and set him loose right down in the ravine. Oh my God, dude, it would be amazing. Yeah, these people are crazy. Look, Kamala Harris is the most skilled questioner. Really. This is the same chick that couldn't figure out, how to properly ask questions of Brett Kavanaugh. These people are crazy. They're all about their agenda. They want to talk about climate change, how it affects a Senate appointment or rather a judicial appointment through the Senate confirmation hearing. What? Like, this has nothing to do with anything. Like, but they'll still try to bring in because they want to care about all their little pet peeve issues, all the things that they think they need to force on the rest of America. And that's why they're out there, because they know that she'll say the crazy shit they want her to say. Just like Mazie Hirono telling all the men to shut up. Like, really? Like, this is an appropriate comment from a senator to tell over 50% of the population, or 49, I don't know, whatever the spread is between male and female. It's still around 50% of the country. She just told them all to shut up. Our opinions don't matter. How does that win votes? And what kind of self-loathing, just disgusted person do you have to be to vote against yourself? To be like, oh my God, I just hate being a man. I'm so disgusted with being a man. All this male privilege that I have, I have to absolutely vote for them to euthanize me. What? You're not going to get the votes. That's the way it is.
Well, it does bring up an interesting predicament for the Democrats, because I think there would be a large number of them on Capitol Hill who would want to put Kamala Harris forward as a potential candidate, James. There's no doubt about that. But if she ends up losing, so it's basically going to be up to the Republicans whether or not she keeps her seat on the Judiciary Committee, right, in the Senate. So I think, this will be a nice little test. I wonder how many people will be paying attention to this. This is why I raised it tonight. This will be a nice little test case for Mitch McConnell, because if you deny Kamala Harris access to that committee, you deny her the kind of oxygen that she's going to need in order to launch a presidential run in 2020. So, I mean, if you don't consider her a threat, then you probably allow her to be there so she can disrupt the Democrat Party. If you do consider her a threat in 2020, then you absolutely cut her off at the knees and deny her the oxygen by being on the committee, especially considering, like the article pointed out, coming up to, we've got, Robert Mueller's report. We've got all kinds of things going through the Senate. We've got more judicial appointments, potentially the replacement of Ruth Bader Ginsburg as well. That'll be on the cards. So, it's an interesting time for Mitch McConnell and the Republicans, and for Kamala Harris as well. I'm glad that we read the Washington Post and New York Times tonight, James, and of course our favorite Twitter celebrity, Alyssa Milano, because this next story may be a little frightening. This may be a little confronting. I don't want to alarm anybody, but if you're standing, sit down. If you're sitting, lie down. And if you're driving, please pull over, because things may get a little hectic at your homestead if your progressive nieces and nephews who are visiting for the holidays get wind of this article from one of our personal favorites, James. Salon. Can we save loved ones from Fox News? I don't know if it's too late or not. Oh, no! Tucker Carlson will kill us all. Jay Senko, director of The Brainwashing of My Dad, on surviving those Fox News-fueled holiday gatherings, James. There will be many tense and uncomfortable conversations this weekend in America and throughout the holiday season. Political disagreement may be inevitable at family gatherings, but one factor in America makes it much worse: Fox News. Since it launched in 1996, Fox News Channel has been one of the most popular cable news networks in the United States, obviously because it's so fucking awful, James. On a given day, that approximately 3 million people, mostly older and mostly exclusively white, watch Fox programming. Fox News must be very popular in those rural areas, James, with all the white folks who keep voting for the Republicans. Damn it. That's more than CNN and MSNBC combined. Who would have thunk it? These viewers are being fed a steady diet of lies and disinformation in the service of an alternate reality where the facts are rejected in favor of right-wing talking points, James. Media scholars and other researchers have shown that people who watch Fox News actually know less correct information about current events and other important public matters than people who watch other news networks or who do not watch cable news at all. Fox News also has real political power at the polls. Social scientists concluded that the network helps to mobilize Republican and right-leaning voters. But Fox News was never about honoring the obligation of the free press to speak truth to power or help the American people make informed decisions about political and social matters. Fox was explicitly designed to parrot the style and narrative of sports talk radio, where entertainment and profit-seeking are more important than the truth, and the world is divided up between right-wing conservatives, the good guys, and the home team, and Democrats, liberals, and progressives, the bad guys, the enemy. And James, I would just like to say, tonight, coming up on Trust and Verify here on TAVshow.com, we'll announce a special competition where if you can bring back a can of tear gas from the San Diego border, we will send you $5 in cold hard cash. In the age of Trump, James, Fox News has only become more bold and transparent in its partisanship. Although the network initially favored other Republicans in 2016 and at times was openly opposed to Trump, it has become his de facto state-sponsored media, an American Pravda where Trump's war on democracy is cheered on, his leadership is endlessly praised, and white supremacist or eliminationist rhetoric is mainstreamed. All of those white supremacists on Fox News and James R. Isn't it wonderful? We've cornered the white supremacist market. I think I was very excited about that. Here's the person writing the article asked the guy for his expert opinion on, various little situations that might come up around the turkey, James, when you're sitting down to a Thanksgiving lunch. How can you best red pill? Well, I guess it would be, how can you blue pill your red pilled Fox News geriatric drunk uncle at the dinner table, which is what all Thanksgiving is all about, right? So we need advice on this. Here's the question. If a Fox News viewer or someone else who is entombed in the right-wing echo chamber were to approach you seeking advice because they know something is wrong and want to get out, so to speak, how would you help them? And here's the answer. First of all, you can't immediately just debunk their way of thinking and what they believe in. You have to deactivate their amygdala. This is the fear center of the brain, James. It's a fear campaign. Science shows it's actually larger in the brains of authoritarians and other conservatives than in other people. You have to find some sort of common ground with them. Ask something basic, such as, you have kids in school? Oh, I do too. You want the best for them? Yes, so do I. Gee, too bad this news is so divisive. Then pivot to trying to share some new information that they may not have been exposed to. But the most important thing, James, is to focus on deactivating the fear center of the brains of these Fox News viewers and listeners. Find common ground. Once you get them to trust you and you share some actual facts, then maybe you can try to get them to think for themselves. One more question. Are they even capable of thinking for themselves? Trump supporters are in a de facto cult where he is the leader. We also know from psychology that a phenomenon called information backfire will also make conservatives and other Fox News types even more resistant to new information and real facts. I always find that offensive. Here I am reading Salon and they're telling me that I don't read Salon. I'm like, what? Yeah, maybe you're not getting the stats. Maybe my stat doesn't come up on their clicker or something, but I'm clearly here every single week tearing shreds off this garbage. Come on, give me some credit. I'm open to new information. Unfortunately, the most part, you are likely correct. It's almost impossible because they are in a type of right-wing Fox News bubble. In practice, it will require a longer deprogramming process, James. Maybe a few years in a re-education camp will learn you some truth, which is what I had to do with my dad. Sounds like a very happy relationship with dad. That didn't happen overnight. It took me about 2 years. Imagine 2 years of your progressive son hammering you every single Thanksgiving. Dad, what about the schools? Dad, what about the oil prices? Dad, what about Khashoggi? I bet in the end, the dad said, fine, I'm voting Democrat just to shut the kid up. Here's a baseball. Go outside and play. That didn't happen overnight. It took me about 2 years. But you may be able to reach 1 out of 10 Fox News people, and those others stuck in the right. But those others are stuck in the right-wing echo chamber. James, from the right-wing echo chamber to your ears in the audience, what do you make of that?
I love it, and people are going to be like, "What?" Yeah, I love the fact that they have proved in one article that they still have absolutely no fucking idea what is going on in America. They are so out of it that in their own article, they still think that we watch Fox News, that that's our center of information, that these are the people. Obviously, they've never watched this show, Trust and Verify, who we cringe if we have to use a Fox News article because nobody else is talking about something. Like we're like, no. Fox is the devil, right? We put the cross up. Like, no, we literally use your sources like we just read, Salon, and they don't understand it. Like they literally think that they can plagiarize all of our thoughts, all of our ideas, and then disguise it in an article like this, where we're the ones saying, like, think about it like this. In that article, they said, well, you should find common ground with them and talk to them. Well, don't you have children? Well, as soon as you bring up the children, we're going to win the argument every time because you're the tools that are in the school trying to indoctrinate children. You don't see conservative teachers in there trying to tell everybody, be right, be smart. You got to be a conservative your whole life. No, that doesn't happen. It's the other way. So you're going to lose the argument. And then what's going to happen is it's just going to keep going as a debate because the conservative's going to be like, no, that's not a fact. This is the fact. Here it is. Look it up. Until eventually the guy on the left's going to lose his mind again and go crazy at dinner and throw the turkey across the room. Like that's literally what's going to happen because they're wrong about everything they've written of even understanding who we are. We're literally playing wedge politics right now and they don't understand it. They're literally writing an article that's wedging the mainstream media apart. And I love it. That's what I love because they don't see that. It's subtle. You have to understand what you're seeing. But as Boogie always says, once you see it, you can't unsee it. Salon's article right there, think about it. Fox News has been trying to sidle up, I should say, to CNN and put no daylight between them. We're standing up for Jim Acosta. We're standing with them in solidarity for the mainstream media. Fox News is literally your next door neighbor and just trying to help you. the mainstream media, and you're writing articles to keep you guys wedged apart. I love it. It's fantastic to me. What do you think?
Well, of course, because corporate media is an entity unto itself. They are the key holders. They are the gatekeepers, James. And the enemy to corporate media, even though at times it appears that the enemy is, the Republicans, or it might be the Democrats, it might be Ocasio-Cortez, it might be Donald Trump, they're the enemies that are presented for you. Those are the enemies that you are supposed to have. They are presenting you with the fodder, but you are the enemy to corporate media. Mm-hmm. Right? They want you to be, I've said this often, and it sounds like hippie flower child bullshit, but it's really not. The political entity, the political machine, it is our duty as voters in free liberal democracies and republics. It is our duty to instill a sense. How they say you can't use fear. We, as voters, we absolutely should use fear against the political machine. It is our duty. The politicians are supposed to fear us, fear our retribution. At any moment, they should be completely aware that their very privileged lifestyle, that their hands on the power can be ripped away from them at any second. That is our power. That is what we are entrusted with voting rights. That's what, the founders in the United States wanted for you, to be the check and balance on the whole shebang. Politicians talk about, we need checks and balances. Corporate media talks about where the check and balance on the politicians. No, you are. The voter is. The rest of it is a sideshow. The rest of it is a game. And the corporate media needs the political machine. The political machine needs the corporate media to keep you nice and divided and pointing fingers and getting engaged in ridiculous bullshit arguments so they can just carry on dragging you over the coals, James.
Which highlights, let me interrupt you real quick, which highlights why I'm talking so much shit about the idiots in new media doing the same bullshit.
Yep. Like we have to get to a situation where we come to the realization, James, that, and again, I'm not trying to sound new age, I'm not trying to sound hippie. It's not so much that it's me, the voter, versus you, the voter. The way the political machine views the situation is it's us, the voters, versus them. And, I've said it before, if society breaks down, the cops aren't going to be cruising the street protecting you from the bad guys. They're guarding the governor's mansion, right? Yeah, it becomes you, like the law enforcement entities then exist to protect the government from you, not to protect you from yourselves. That's what it's all about. So with that, I think, if we're talking about Fox News, James, or if we're talking about pseudo-intellectual war in the corporate media battlefront, I think it's time for the hammering.
Stop the hammering.
We had to go to one of our absolute favorites today, James, the evergreen, the ever-talented, the always professional Mr. Brian Stelter. Let's rock and roll, bri.
The biggest story of the weekend, everywhere except the pro-Trump media. Oh. It's that big climate change report with dire new warnings released by the Trump administration on Friday. Of course, it seemed to be an example of a holiday news dump.
This is interesting. This is go ahead. I know you've got something already. Go for it.
I just think it's hilarious. Like, I think I don't want to steal your thunder here, but these guys act like Donald Trump is approving of the climate choice. That's why he had to release this report. I mean, it's these guys. They will twist everything into Donald Trump was trying to hide this report. Donald Trump was trying to hide the fact that he supports climate change. What?
Well, look, to be fair to Brian Stelter and the rest of the wacky gang on CNN, they might well be right. Politicians do release things over holidays, James. But if the argument is that Donald Trump released this to hide it, and then you follow that up by saying all of the corporate media was talking about it, then how did he hide it again? Exactly. Can you just let me know?
Exactly.
It gets better.
Out this report on a Friday afternoon when folks are shopping and spending time with family. Even though the report was originally supposed to come out in December, it was moved up to Thanksgiving weekend.
Yeah.
Seemed like some funny business was going on.
Funny business.
Still, most of the major networks covered the report in detail. It's been a big story on cable news, except for Fox News.
It was a big story on cable news, James. Most of the major networks covered the story in detail. See, I wonder what they're trying to get off their front pages. Did anything happen today? I'm not sure. Can we cast our minds back? Has any news been happening over the last 48 hours? Let's go to Alyssa Milano for special expert comments. You tear gas women and children, asswipe, and on Thanksgiving weekend, you piece of shit. Asshole, motherfucking evil creature person. Thank you, Alyssa. Thanks for reminding us about other news going on except climate change. Here's another question for you. I find it highly amusing as someone who has really closely researched and studied the climate change, the politics of climate change. I don't get involved in the science. You know why? I'm not a scientist. But that's okay. I don't have to. People say, why are you making it a political decision? I'm saying, okay, why are you asking for my tax dollars? If it's not a political decision, then why am I paying for it? If one person's saying that I need to pay for it and the other person's saying vote for me and you won't have to pay for it, guess who I'm going to vote for, right? It's a political decision. But the IPCC, James, has been releasing these reports for 25 years. They have made prediction after prediction after prediction after prediction. Not one, and I'm not even joking, not one has ever been proven right. Not one. Who else can do that? Who else can spend a quarter of a century making quote unquote predictions? Like if you were okay, so Fox News is turning news into like sports radio. So just I'm Smooth James R, right? I'm Smooth James R, the football expert, and I come on every Thursday night to give you the hot tips of who's going to win. Imagine if week after week I'm there going, the Dallas Cowboys are an absolute lock this weekend. There's no way that Arizona's going to get the better of them. Hot damn, the weather down there. You put your money on what I'm telling you to put your money on, you're going to be a rich motherfucker come Monday. Like if I got every single prediction wrong, every one, would you keep paying me, buddy? Would you keep believing me? Or would you go... Or what? So I release my next football tips on Friday afternoon, James, when everyone's shopping. Or would you expect them to roll their eyes and go, oh, Smooth James R put out his new dire predictions for the weekend. Yeah, you know what? I don't care. That guy hasn't gotten anything right to begin with. In the world of Brian Stelter, we're all supposed to shut up, drop everything, and pay attention to the shitty climate change report. That's never been correct.
Ever.
I want you to guess. How many times Fox News mentioned that blockbuster report on Friday?
Hopefully 0.
Fox News alert: the White House releasing a major climate report concluding that climate change will do significant damage to the U.S. economy.
That was 9 of the
full
30
I
seconds
love that.
Fox News spent.
Oh my God. I love the fact. Did you hear what she said? Like, Brian Stelter's going to miss this point. I'm going to predict that without ever watching this. Brian Stelter's going to miss the point of what the article said, because she just highlighted it and she said that it's going to do significant damage to the U.S. economy. So what do you think is going to happen to our economy? Not destruction. That's for damn sure. Like, they're trying to mess with it. They're trying to move interest rates. They're trying to tank our economy. They're in the process of trying to do that, and Donald Trump has thwarted them at every single juncture so far. So when the economy gets proven to not be damaged, do you think that CNN's going to do another article later on, or another story later on that says, the climate change article was completely backwards, ass fucked wrong?
No, of course not. But they're talking about, it'll do damage in the year 2250. You know what I mean? Like, none of us are going to be alive. None of us are going to be around by then. Actually, I've read tons and tons and tons of material that actually says the best economic argument, if just say climate change is real, even though not one prediction has ever come true, but we're just going to keep believing people anyway because, trust the scientists. The scientists are never wrong, peasant. The scientists are never wrong. You must always trust the scientists, whether they're talking about penguins in Antarctica or the end of planet Earth is. Brian Stelter understands this because he is better than you. He's on CNN and not football, Fox News, American football, Democrats, Ocasio-Cortez, Donald Trump. But so even though none of these predictions have ever come true, they say the best economic argument is actually to prepare for climate change, not to try and mitigate it. Like, there are things that we could do to say, okay, if the temperature comes up by, it would literally be cheaper to raise all the houses if the sea level rises than it is to try and stop the sea level from rising. Do you see what I'm saying? All across the board.
It's cheaper to stilt everybody's house, trade in every car for a boat. It's cheaper to do build, I don't know, igloos if the planet goes the other way. I mean, these things are all cheaper than the mitigation crap that these guys want to do. That's what it proves to you. Like, if literally we could go back to the 70s and we could talk about this exact same conversation in the 70s and everything would sound the same, because they were trying to sell us this crap and everybody looked at them and went, what? Because it doesn't make sense if you're trying to tell me that all you can do with your best efforts, the best thing the scientists have ever said, the smartest scientists involved in global climate change, their best predictions, if we did absolutely, positively, 1,000% of everything they said, we would affect global temperatures by 0.03 degrees Celsius in 100 years. Who the fuck wants to put that much money into that?
Yeah. And I mean, we've reached the quote unquote tipping point, from my best counting, at least a dozen times in the last 10 years. Oh, we're at the tipping point. Here comes the tipping point. We're over the tipping point now. Oh, wait. We got that a little bit wrong. Let's just push the tipping point out a little bit further. Let's push it out a little bit further. They're waiting for wall-to-wall consensus from the UN, from the major economies of the world. They need everybody signed up at the exact same time so they can open the floodgates and let your money, your hard-earned money in the Western world, flood through to the UN so they can fill their coffers and sell you these ridiculous stories about, hey, if only you stopped all of your economic growth and all of your prosperity and all of your manufacturing and all of your cheap energy production, which is actually the bulwark, the cheap energy production, access to cheap energy is what fuels economies. And it has been that for the thousands of years that we've had, progressive modern economies, right? Ever since ancient Greece, it was their access to cheap energy that actually made their marketplaces possible and commerce possible. People stopped dying, freezing to death in the dark. If anything, global warming would actually be a good thing, because most cataclysmic death comes from not heat, James, but cold. In the ice ages, people die, plant life dies, species go extinct. If you look at the hottest places on Earth around the equator and such, that's where most life flourishes, because of the increased CO2 and the increased heat. But you know what? Let's carry on with our boy Brian. We're only a minute in. This is going to be a killer.
Covering the report on Friday. Let that sink in. Fox only mentioned the report once on television on Friday. Now, obviously, the report countered the president's ridiculous claims about climate change. Fox decided to avoid all that, though. The network actually spent more time talking about Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's shoes on Friday. More time on her shoes.
It's more
time on her shoes. I've actually got a memo here direct from the office of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, James. This is hot goss off the press. This has just come in over the fax machine, James. Yes, we still use faxes here in the Boogie Bumper Australian offices. Let me read it here. She says, we can solve climate change by getting everybody to put their air conditioner on and open the windows. There you go. Solved it. Solved climate change.
You guys, this is the best part of the hammering for me, honestly, is I get a front row seat to the comedy of Boogie. I freaking love it.
We just want to go to our special celebrity guest, James, for another quick comment here. You tear gas women and children, asswipe, and on Thanksgiving weekend, you piece of shit, asshole, motherfucking evil creature person. Thank you very much for that. Alyssa Milano, ladies and gentlemen. Alyssa Milano coming to an awards night near you to proclaim her hatred for Donald Trump. Let's carry on with my boy, Brian.
Then on the climate change report.
The climate change report.
The network's newscast did air several segments about climate change, about the crisis on Saturday. But on the president's favorite talk shows, not a word. Instead of engaging in climate change denialism, they just ignored the problem altogether, which I would argue is another form of denialism. So what is Fox emphasizing?
Even when they don't deny it, they're denying it.
Emphasizing instead this weekend? This.
Here we go.
The crisis on our southern border is growing more serious.
We see these migrant caravans that want to come in, want to exploit our laws.
Hundreds of criminals are traveling with one of the migrant caravans.
What are you talking? What migrant caravan? Instead of talking about the impending doom of the climate change crisis, which may or may not happen very, very slowly over the next 500 years, James, these idiots on Fox News, they were talking about the imaginary caravan that's not even real. Oh, we got him now. You can just imagine the producers of Reliable Sources still to show going, we got him. They were talking about the caravan all day. Today, it's like tear gas is getting pumped in. Now they're reporting women and children are crying, running with their babies, coughing and spluttering, being asphyxiated from the tear gas, James. What the fuck are you talking about? There's no caravan. Everybody, look at the climate change. The climate change is happening very, very slowly, maybe over the next 500 years. Everybody look at the climate change report. They didn't even deny it, and that proves that they're denying it. Those bastards.
That migrant caravan looming on the U.S.-Mexico border.
Yes, the caravan is back. Those Central American migrants have been walking north for weeks, and now some of them are nearing the U.S. border. President Trump and his friends at Fox exploited the migrants in the run-up to the midterms. You can see how.
Now, I want you to put your logical thinking caps on here, guys, ladies and gentlemen. Why do you think that there's a possibility that on election day and the few days after the election, that stories about the caravan might not have been as prominent as they otherwise would be? Could it be because, I don't know, there was a fucking election? Could that be the reason? I don't know. You tell me.
Dude, I gotta interrupt real quick because I'm laughing so freaking hard at what you're doing. The chat room is laughing so hard at what you're doing. But there was a great comment by our friend Christian Lamar who said, Ocasio-Cortez's shoes have a higher IQ than she does.
But look at this. Fox News segments about the caravan. On election day, they weren't talking about the caravan. I guess they should be criticized. They shouldn't have spoken at all about the election. You know, that wall-to-wall election coverage, people getting elected, exit polls, what the Senate's going to look like, what the House is going to look like. They should have said, nah, stuff all that. Let's keep talking about the Hondurans so we don't upset Brian Stelter.
Caravan was covered a whole lot up until Election Day. Yeah. And then it dropped off for a while, right? It disappeared for a few days. And now it has made a comeback on Fox.
I wonder if that time, I wonder if you did.
Shows are portraying this as an
I wonder if you did a comparison chart now of the voter fraud coverage, if it filled in that little gap nicely, how America was extremely pissed the fuck off that the Democrats stole the entire country. I wonder if that's why we weren't talking about the caravan for those few days. I bet you the graphs coincide very nicely.
No, James. No, I think you'll find Americans are only pissed off about climate change, people getting tear gassed at the borders, and etc.
Urgent crisis. And calling it, look at the banner here, the battle for the southern border.
The battle for the southern border. Ha ha ha. Look at his face. What? Look at those silly Fox News shock jocks and sports radio journalists, James, talking about the battle of the southern border coming up at 6 o'clock. How Earth is doomed due to a dire new climate change report. Oh, and we'll get special comments from our celebrity, Alyssa Milano. Coming up at 7 o'clock. Special guest appearance from Alyssa Milano. You tear gas women and children, asswipe. And on Thanksgiving weekend, you piece of shit, asshole, motherfucking evil creature person. We're very reasonable here on Trust and Verify. Let's carry on, Brian.
It's a vivid example of how two Americas are living side by side. We're living in two different realities, supported by two different news worlds.
I agree.
In most of the country's news media, this climate report is the big story. But over on Fox and on right-wing websites, it's the caravan.
That doesn't exist.
Let's talk about bridging this information divide with Washington Post columnist Karen Tumulty, Baltimore Sun media critic David Zurwick, and Noah Shackman, the editor-in-chief of the Daily Beast.
This panel. Jesus Christ, Brian.
High energy panel, James.
Where the hell did he dig these people up from? Jesus.
Well, the guy we're going to hear from, you'll be pleased to know, James, in order to bridge the information divide, why are so many people talking about the obvious, actual, real, impending doom of the dire climate change report? Remember, we don't like using fear here at CNN. We're not using fear. Your grandchildren are going to burn to death like extras in a Terminator movie, but we don't like using fear over here. We only give you the facts. So let's go to our special guest from the Daily Beast.
Back to the Caravan in a moment. But Noah, did this attempt at a news dump over the weekend work? Was the Trump administration able to bury news about this dire climate change warning on Friday?
Dire. He has to say dire warning.
Homepage.
He can't even just say it's a climate change report. He's like, are they trying to bury news about this dire climate change warning over the weekend? He could just say climate change report. I mean, we wouldn't want to be seen to be using fear, would we?
Pages of the New York Times and the Washington Post, it was the top story. We featured it as our top story. But I think it did kind of work. Look, anytime you put out news on a Friday afternoon.
The Washington Post had it as their top story. The New York Times had it as their top story. We at the Daily Beast had it as our top story. But I think Trump's plan to hide the story actually worked. Ladies and gentlemen, the editor of the Daily Beast admitting nobody reads his shit. There you go. Nobody reads it. Nobody cares.
During Black Friday, it's just not going to get the same kind of traffic that it does, the same kind of attention it does in the middle of a regular news week.
And let me turn from climate change to something that is related. That's the devastating fires in California.
Oh, it's related.
You think about what's happened the last.
So, really? Really? Brian Stelter can just say that, can he? Oh, the devastating fires are related to climate change, but see, we just move on. That's just an assumed truth, James. Remember, the dire warnings about climate change. We wouldn't want to use fear, would we? By the way, those fires in California were caused by climate change. What? And moving on to the migrant caravan. Yeah.
2.5 weeks since the fire in Paradise. I think we can show on screen the front page of the Chico Enterprise record from this morning, continuing to cover the story there in Northern California. The death toll from the Camp Fire in and around Paradise stands at 85. And the newest information from the local sheriff's department is that 249 people are still unaccounted for. It has been 17 days since the fire, and still 249 people are unaccounted for. David Zerwick, to me, this means it's a bigger story every day. Every day this goes on as the death toll rises, it's a bigger story. And yet, by the rhythms of cable news, people have mostly moved on, unfortunately, because there's the bigger and hotter stories going on. But there's nothing more important than this story in California, given the number of missing there.
And given the fact that the White House administration is full of climate change deniers, James. So do you see what we're doing here? We're accusing the Trump administration and the quote-unquote right-wing media of misdirecting. They're trying to, move your attention away from the real realities of climate change, such as the fire in California. No citation required. No citation needed there. No reference required for that one. They're trying to direct your attention away from that onto the very fake, very unreal. I tweeted out earlier today at AP News when they reported that tear gas was getting fired into the migrants. I asked them, earnestly, very genuinely. I wasn't being sarcastic at all. I said there is imaginary tear gas being fired at imaginary Caravan, which is thousands of miles away and doesn't really exist. Can I have a press pass now? Because I think that's the way it works, right?
Right.
We have to say the Caravan's not real. Climate change is, but the Caravan isn't, James.
I love this story. I love what they're doing. Brian doesn't understand that right there in that story, it literally will highlight the fact that it's the California Democrats' fault that fire's there. The governor has already stood up and had to say, well, the president has our back. The president and them have already said this could have been avoided by proper management of the forest. The forestry people have stood up and said this could have been avoided if the forests were properly managed. James R. did a scope over a year talking about the dangers of the mismanagement of the forests. I mean, Brian doesn't understand. He's highlighting Democrat failure right here on top of that. But even more in his own stories. Like if you listen to all these stories, and right here in this one, Brian Stelter said, the country has never been more divided than ever before. Yes, Brian, that's exactly right. So now explain to me why the fuck people split their votes on election day.
Good question.
It's an enormous story, and it's shocking in a way, the way it is underplayed. Now, sometimes when a story goes on this long, a kind of entropy sets in, and that sometimes limits the coverage. But I think, again, it relates to the larger symptom of what we're dealing with in news coverage today, which is the way Trump is still able to drive a lot of coverage. Look, even...
They just hate the fact that Donald Trump can make them talk about things that they don't want to talk about. They hate the fact that they can't force. See, they're not angry that Donald Trump is, directing, what's spoken about. They're angry that they're not. There's a difference. They'll present it as, Donald Trump is controlling the media cycle, but they're really saying we're not controlling the media cycle, and that's a problem for them. Like what were we talking about earlier in the show? The enemy is not they need the political machine. They are part of the political machine, these entities in corporate media. They are leeches on the asshole of the entity of politics, sucking blood and then spitting it into your mouths. Right? So they need you hooked onto their ass while they're hooked onto the ass of Donald Trump. That's the way it works. Jesus and if you're not buying what they're selling, then the system fails. Their system. The system that they want, the system that they need to survive. It falls in on itself if you're not buying what they're selling. Donald Trump can control the media cycle. This is horrible. Yes, it's horrible for you.
For mainstream media that are doing their job of journalism rather than the right-wing media, which is doing the job of public relations or people.
So now the mainstream media, now the right-wing media is a separate entity to the mainstream media, James. That's news to me. So if you're in the mainstream, you can't be on the right. Good to know.
PR for the White House. Even for these media, we have to cover the things that Trump does. When he calls up the troops on Thanksgiving, and when he politicizes that in a way that it's never been done, you have to cover that. You have to tell people.
Let's look at an example of that. Let's look.
When he politicizes illegal crossings at the border, James. Yeah, that's pretty political. That's pretty political. Who else is going to stop it? Brian Stelter? I don't know. Maybe we play clips of reliable sources on the border and they'll all run back to Honduras. Give me the bullet. Give me the bullet.
An example of that, because the call was covered, I think, really appropriately by most outlets. But look at this montage and notice how one of these things is not like the other.
President Trump unable to keep politics off the Thanksgiving Day table.
We know how the president celebrated yesterday. He was on the phone.
Trump unleashed. The president goes off script. Way off script.
Okay, so David Zerbeck, that's exactly what I mean. Two Americas, two news worlds. CNN, MSNBC, others were emphasizing the outrageous nature of Trump's political call. But, on Fox and Friends, it's always...
Again, are we living? Okay, so there's two Americas. There's two realities. In their reality, nobody showed up at the border today. There was no tear gas. There were no coughing. There was no coughing. There was no spluttering. There was no attempt to breach the border, James. The border didn't get shut down. There was no concern. There was no caravan. They're thousands of miles away. It doesn't exist. It's all just a big scam, you see. It's all just Donald Trump's political rhetoric. No, the real issue, James, is the impending climate doom, which will engulf us in lava within the next 300 to 500 years, which also caused the California fires, despite everybody being involved in fighting the fires saying otherwise. And of course, James, Donald Trump calling up the troops on Thanksgiving, because no president has ever done anything like that on Thanksgiving. Ever, ever, ever. Nothing has ever happened over a holiday. No. And it's especially bad. Why, James? Not because it was Thanksgiving. We can go to our special guest here, Alyssa Milano. You tear gas women and children, asswipe, and on Thanksgiving weekend, you piece of shit, asshole, motherfucking evil creature person. Didn't happen, James. It's all fake. It's an imaginary caravan. It was imaginary tear gas. What the hell are we worried about? Two Americas, ladies and gentlemen. There you go. There's your hammering.
Stop the hammering.
What? I have to say this again. Leeches on the asshole of humanity. sucking blood and shit and spitting it into your mouth. There you go, folks. There is the visuals of Boogie Bumper.
You asshole piece of shit, motherfucking evil creature person, you.
What a show. Just an amazing time we've had with you tonight, folks. It is time to say good night. If you want to follow me, you can follow me at Real Person Politics. If you want to follow him, you can follow him at Boogie Bumper. If you want to follow us, you can follow us at Tab Show and always find us on tabshow.com. That being said, aloha. Everybody have a great day.